think it's looking this way.
Don't move.
Oh, it's walking. It's leaving.
I got it.
I'm a wildlife biologist, and for weeks my trail cam watched Bigfoot return to the same ravine with surgical purpose. But nothing prepared me for the night Bigfoot dragged something horrific into the forest. And what that final clip shows is so unbelievable, Bigfoot made sure to bury it deep. The timestamp blinks 2:14 a.m. in the lower corner of camera 3's frame, and for the first 4 seconds of the clip, there is nothing. Just ponderosa pines at the edge of the motion zone, wet bark catching the infrared, a thin ground fog sitting low across the basin floor. Then the left edge of the frame shifts. Something moves into it from the tree line, and the word that hits me before any conscious thought is enormous. Not bear enormous, not elk enormous, something else entirely. Something that walks upright with the casual authority of a thing that has never once been afraid of what lives in the dark with it. Bigfoot moves through camera 3's field of view like the woods belong to it personally, and the mule deer carcass hanging from its right hand swings like a suitcase, not draped across its shoulders, not cradled, gripped by one rear leg, dangling, the animal's dead weight pulling toward the earth while Bigfoot barely registers the resistance. The deer is big. Later, I estimate a mature doe, probably 140 to 160 pounds field-dressed, and it bounces against the mud with every stride, leaving a trench in the soft ground nearly 8 inches deep that I can make out clearly once daylight hits the same corridor 12 hours later. The shoulder width is extraordinary, at least 36 inches, maybe closer to 40. Far broader than any recorded great ape or human athlete. The arms hang unnaturally long, one carrying the deer, the other swinging with slow, deliberate confidence. The fur is dark, almost black in infrared, wet-looking and matted like it has been forcing through heavy brush. At the 47-yard mark, Bigfoot pauses for 2 seconds, and I can see white breath rising in steady plumes in the cold pre-dawn air. A warm-blooded animal, a very large one, breathing easily under a load that would destroy a person's shoulder. What Bigfoot does not do is stop to eat. The deer is already partially consumed, the ribcage open somewhere else, but Bigfoot keeps moving. A scavenger would feed there. There is no reason to carry it unless the destination matters more than the meal. The ravine sits 340 yards southwest of camera 3, and that is exactly where Bigfoot goes, without hesitation, without checking, without a single wasted step. There is no wandering in that walk. No exploration. Bigfoot knows where it is going the way I know the path from my truck to my gear locker. By rote, by repetition, by use. Predators kill where it's convenient. What I'm watching here looked like delivery. What happens over the next 10 days will make the first sighting look like a warm-up, because Bigfoot doesn't just come back. Bigfoot comes back every single night, and what it's bringing with it will shatter everything you think you know about apex predator behavior. 3 cameras catch the second visit 48 hours later. The triangulation of all 3 angles gives me something I didn't have before. A complete route. Bigfoot enters from the same tree-line corridor every single time, moves along the same bearing, crosses the same low point in the creek, and disappears into the ravine at the same gap between 2 deadfall cedars. The consistency is not the behavior of an animal wandering through its range. It is the behavior of an animal running an established line, the same way a person drives the same road to work every morning without consciously deciding to. The second carcass is a wild hog, a big boar by the look of the tusks, somewhere in the 250-pound range. Bigfoot carries it the same way. One hand, one leg, the body dragging and bouncing, and moves at the same unhurried pace that somehow covers ground faster than it looks like it should. 3 nights after that, a black-tailed deer. Then an elk calf, half-grown, maybe 5 months old, its spotted summer coat still faintly visible in the infrared. 4 separate animals in 10 days, all transported to the same location, none of them consumed on camera, none of them dropped or abandoned partway through. Always at night, always alone, and always toward the ravine. On the 4th recorded visit, the one with the elk calf, Bigfoot does something that stops me cold when I review the footage. At the 60-yard mark from the camera, Bigfoot simply stops, sets the calf down on the ground with a deliberateness that looks almost careful, then turns and walks back 20 yards toward the tree line, stands completely still, and scans the woods in a slow arc that takes nearly 6 full minutes to complete. Not moving, not feeding, just watching. The infrared catches the steam of its breath in slow, regular pulses, and the patience of it is the most unsettling thing I have seen on any of my cameras in 11 years of fieldwork. That 6-minute pause, that's not an animal being cautious. That's an animal running a security check. When Bigfoot is finally satisfied, it returns to the elk calf, picks it back up by the same leg, and continues toward the ravine without hurrying. The whole sequence feels less like wildlife behavior and more like a protocol. That tells me something about the level of intelligence I am dealing with, and it terrifies me accordingly. The rain comes in hard on day 11, a Pacific front that dumps nearly 3 inches across the ridge in under 6 hours and turns every game trail in the basin into a running creek. I almost pull camera 6 that morning because the housing seal has been questionable since September, and I cannot afford to lose another unit to water damage. I decide to leave it. That decision changes everything, because when the front passes and the light comes back in the early afternoon, Camera 6 captures the first daylight footage of the ravine floor in the entire 11 weeks the array has been running. And what I see when I pull that card makes me sit down on the tailgate of my truck and stay there for a long time without moving. Bigfoot enters the ravine basin at 2:47 p.m., carrying bones, not a carcass, not a fresh kill. Bones already cleaned to white, long bones from multiple different animals bundled loosely against its chest with one arm, the way a person might carry a load of firewood. The daylight is flat and gray after the rain. Excellent visibility, no infrared grain, no compression artifacts. And for the first time, I can see the ravine itself clearly in the background as Bigfoot moves through the frame. The basin floor is covered in skeletal remains. I pause the footage and lean close to my laptop screen and spend a long time making sure I am seeing what I think I am seeing. I am. Arranged remains, not scattered, not piled randomly the way bones accumulate at a natural kill site where coyotes and ravens and time do the organizing. Arranged, intentionally, unmistakably, with a logic I can see, even if I cannot immediately decode it. Antlers have been stacked together along the north-facing bank, tines interlocked, the largest on the bottom, smaller ones layered ascending. Rib cages, at least 4 of them, from animals of different sizes, have been stood upright against the trunk of a fallen cedar and positioned side by side like books on a shelf. Long bones, femurs, and tibias, and cannon bones from deer and elk have been laid out in parallel rows on a flat section of gravel near the creek, longest to shortest, left to right, and near the water's edge, clustered together with a density that makes the back of my neck tighten, a pile of skulls. Deer skulls, hog skulls, what looks like a bear cub, the elk calf from 3 nights ago, its head already separated and placed with the others. The most frightening monsters are the ones with rituals. Bigfoot kneels at the skull pile and begins working, moving individual skulls with both hands, repositioning them, tilting them, adjusting their orientation with the focused attention of someone rearranging something that has specific rules I am not privy to. Then Bigfoot lifts one elk skull and places it directly on top of a second, larger elk skull and steps back, stands there, looks at the result for nearly 30 seconds without moving, the steam of its breath rising steady in the cold, wet air. Then Bigfoot adjusts the top skull 2 inches to the left, steps back again, and appears satisfied. I watch that sequence 17 times. I count, because what it means is the thing I cannot stop turning over, the thing that sits under every other thought I have had since that afternoon on the tailgate. This is not a feeding site. This is not territory marking in any framework I was trained to recognize. This is maintenance. This is curation. Something is being built here, and Bigfoot is tending it. You think the bone field is just an animal's feeding site? You are completely, devastatingly wrong. And what Camera 6 captures in the daylight after the rains will be the single most disturbing thing ever recorded by a trail camera in North American wilderness history. Camera 2 sits lower than the others, mounted on a basalt outcrop about 14 feet off the ravine floor, angled down into the basin at roughly 35 degrees. I positioned it there in September to capture ground-level movement along the creek corridor, and for 11 weeks it has given me nothing but deer and one bobcat. At 5:51 a.m. on day 13, 17 minutes before official sunrise, Camera 2 earns every hour I spent hiking it into position. The mountain lion enters the frame from the eastern drainage, moving low and deliberate along the creek bank with its belly close to the wet gravel. It is a large tom, easily 180 pounds, with the thick neck and heavy paws of a dominant male in his prime. His movement is confident in the specific way of an animal that has been using this ridgeline long enough to consider it his. He scent marks the cedar stump at the basin entrance without hesitating, then lifts his head and reads the air, nostrils working, ears rotating forward. The smell of blood and old bone is everywhere down here. To a mountain lion, this ravine must smell like the center of the world. Bigfoot comes out of the tree line 40 seconds later, carrying a bundle of long bones against its chest, and stops the instant it clears the cedars. The two animals see each other at the same moment across roughly 30 feet of open gravel. Neither moves. The mountain lion drops into a crouch so fast it looks like a controlled fall, tail rigid, ears flat, every muscle in its hindquarters loading like a spring. Bigfoot stands fully upright, bones still held against its chest, and watches. For 8 seconds, nothing happens. The creek runs. Steam rises from both animals in the cold morning air. The mountain lion growls first, a low, resonant warning that Camera 2's audio picks up clearly, and begins a slow lateral circle, refusing to concede the carcass pile behind it. It is the dominant male's calculation, too much territory at stake to retreat from something it has not yet confirmed it cannot handle. Bigfoot takes one step forward. The mountain lion launches. The cat covers 30 feet in less than a second and hits Bigfoot in the upper chest and shoulder with both front paws extended, claws fully deployed, the impact violent enough to drive both of them backward into the brush at the ravine's edge. Camera 2 shakes on its mount from the concussive force transmitted through the ground. Branches explode. Dirt and wet leaves spray across the lower frame. The mountain lion gets purchase on Bigfoot's shoulder and neck, rear legs raking in the fast churning motion cats use to open abdominal cavities on deer. Bigfoot roars, and the sound is unlike anything in Camera 2's audio record, a deep percussive blast that sends the creek birds out of the willows 200 yards downstream. Bigfoot gets both hands on the lion's torso, pulls it partially free, and drives it sideways into the cedar trunk with enough force to split the bark in a vertical crack I photograph later at nearly 4 feet long. The mountain lion drops, springs again, goes for the face. Bigfoot catches it midair by the throat and foreleg, twists. The front leg snaps with a sound the microphone captures cleanly, a single dense crack like a green branch under a boot. That clip ended all debate for me. This was not a relic hiding from humans. This was an apex predator. Bigfoot drives the lion into the gravel and does not stop until nothing moves, then places the body carefully beside the skull pile. Like everything else that enters this ravine belongs to it now. And now that Bigfoot knows something has been challenging its territory, the patrols begin, the warnings escalate, and what gets left on the trails will make you sick to your stomach. The morning after the mountain lion fight, Camera 1 picks up Bigfoot moving the perimeter at 4:18 a.m., not carrying anything, not transporting a carcass toward the ravine, just walking the boundary line of the basin with a slow, deliberate circuit. By day 15, the patrols are happening twice nightly. By day 17, Camera 4 captures one in full afternoon daylight, 3:22 p.m., the kind of hour when Bigfoot has never once appeared on any of my units across the entire array. The mountain lion fight has changed something in the behavioral calculus, tightened it, charged it. Whatever tolerance Bigfoot previously extended to the surrounding wildlife has been revoked, and the woods around the ravine begin reflecting that revocation in ways I can document and photograph and still barely believe. The tree damage appears first on the northern approach, the same corridor the mountain lion used. 7 ponderosa pines in a 40-yard stretch show fresh damage at heights between 6 and 8 feet off the ground. Not claw marks, which leave parallel grooves with tapered ends, but something broader, more forceful, the bark driven inward in splintered concave impacts that I initially mistake for bear sign until I put a tape measure against the width and realize no bear's forepaw spans 11 inches across. These are strikes. Open-handed, full-force strikes against tree trunks, and the wood underneath the bark is cracked in several of them, not just bruised. What I was looking at on those trees wasn't territorial marking. It was a warning written in a language that anything with a survival instinct could read. The dead coyotes begin appearing on day 18, 3 of them over 4 days, placed at intervals along the 2 main access trails that lead toward the ravine from the southeast. Each one has a broken back, cleanly broken, mid-spine, with no signs of feeding, no tracks from a second predator. No evidence of a chase or a struggle in the surrounding ground. They are simply there, positioned across the trail like barriers, like punctuation. I photograph each one and send the images to a wildlife pathologist contact in Oregon who tells me the spinal trauma is consistent with something applying sudden, massive compressive force directly downward across the animal's back. He asks me what I think did it. I tell him I'm still working on that. The black bear appears on day 20, a sow with 2 cubs moving down the eastern drainage toward the basin in the early morning. Camera 8 captures her approach, her paws at the tree line 80 yards out, and then the sudden full reversal, cubs scrambling to follow before she has cleared the cedars or come within any angle that should have given her a visual or scent read on the ravine. She does not look back. She moves her cubs out of the drainage at a pace just below a run and does not reappear on any camera for the remaining duration of the study. Bigfoot chases her out of frame 11 seconds after she turns, not pursuing to close distance, ensuring departure. This ravine now has one rule: only one animal decides who enters. You think you've seen the worst of what this footage contains? You haven't even come close. Because something far more fragile than a mountain lion or a black bear is about to walk into that ravine, and Bigfoot has already been watching him for a very, very long time. Camera 9 is the one I almost never check first. When I pull the card on day 23 and load it into the laptop, I am expecting more of the same. Instead, I get a flashlight beam cutting through the dark at 6:47 p.m., and behind it, a man. He enters the drainage from the south, moving fast and careless, boots hitting the wet ground with the flat-footed confidence of someone who has been in these hills before and does not think they hold anything he needs to be afraid of. He is carrying a rifle slung across his back and a heavy pack that tells me he is planning to be out here for a while. In his left hand, the flashlight sweeps in short arcs, and I can see from the way the beam keeps dropping toward the ground that he is following a blood trail. The mountain lion's blood trail, I realize, tracing backward from the ravine floor along the same corridor the cat used to enter. Someone has been on the ridge line, someone found blood sign and followed it inward. The way poachers follow wounded animals they have no legal right to be pursuing on this land, into a basin they have no permit to enter. I watch him cross Camera 9's field of view and feel the first cold certainty settle into my stomach. He does not know what left that blood. He does not know that the trail lead to Bigfoot, and he does not know that somewhere beyond the tree line at the ravine's edge, something is already aware that he is here. Camera 6 picks him up 14 minutes later at the basin entrance, flashlight sweeping across the bone field for the first time. He stops. The beam moves slowly left to right across the arranged remains, the stacked antlers, the upright rib cages, the long bones laid out in their parallel rows, and even from the camera angle, I can see the change in his posture, the way his shoulders come up, the way his feet stop moving and stay stopped. He stands at the edge of the bone field for 2 full minutes without advancing, the flashlight working back and forth across the skulls near the creek bank. Then he does the thing that makes my chest tighten when I watch it. He walks in. He kicks apart the nearest skull arrangement first, the one closest to the cedar line, his boot scattering 3 deer skulls across the gravel with a casual violence that reads as either bravado or profound ignorance of where he is and what this place means to whatever built it. He crouches and picks up a smaller skull, turns it over in the flashlight beam, and slides it into his pack. Then a second one. He is collecting, treating the bone field like a curiosity, like something he stumbled onto that belongs to no one and therefore belongs to him. Camera 6's audio is not strong enough to capture footsteps at distance, but at the 23-minute mark of the man's time in the basin, something moves at the upper edge of the frame. A darkness that is slightly denser than the surrounding dark, shifting position at the tree line without sound, without the branch snap or leaf crush that any animal of that mass should be producing on wet ground. Bigfoot is at the perimeter. Has been there, I realize when I scrub backward through the footage, since approximately 3 minutes after the man entered the bone field. Bigfoot has been watching him dismantle the shrine for 20 minutes without making a sound, and the patience of that, the absolute stillness of it, is the most frightening thing Camera 6 has ever recorded. When I understood what I was watching, I stopped the footage and sat in the dark for a long time before I could make myself press play again. The man spends another 40 minutes in the basin. He handles bones, repositions himself, photographs things with his phone, moves around the perimeter of the arranged remains with the casual tourism of someone who has no idea he is being observed from a distance of less than 60 feet by something that has already decided what he is. Bigfoot circles the entire time, staying just outside the flashlight's reach, moving only when the beam moves away, patient and systematic and absolutely silent. The circle tightens incrementally over the 40 minutes in a way I can track by watching the density of shadow at the tree line shift position on the camera. By the time the man decides to leave, Bigfoot is no longer at the perimeter. Bigfoot is between him and the drainage exit. The man's flashlight finds the gap in the cedars and he moves toward it, pack heavy with stolen skulls, rifle still slung and useless on his back, and at the moment he reaches the gap, Bigfoot steps out of the dark and fills it completely. The footage captures the man's flashlight beam hitting Bigfoot's center mass and then dropping as the man drops, stumbling backward onto the gravel, and the sound that comes out of him, picked up clearly on camera 6's audio at that proximity, is not a word. It is not a shout. It is the sound a person makes when every survival instinct fires at once, and the body cannot decide what to do with all of it simultaneously. Bigfoot does not close the distance. Not yet. Bigfoot stands in the gap and watches the man scramble backward into the center of the bone field, and the deliberateness of that, allowing the retreat only in one direction, only deeper in, is when I understood that what I was watching was not an animal reacting. It was an animal that had already decided how this would end and was simply executing the steps in order. The man realizes where he has been herded when his back foot hits the skull pile. He stops, looks behind him, looks back at Bigfoot standing motionless at the only exit. His flashlight hand is shaking badly enough that the beam bounces across the arranged bones in a way that would almost look like a light show if the context were anything other than what it is. He starts talking. I cannot make out words at this audio quality, but the cadence is unmistakable, fast, high, the rhythm of a person bargaining with something that does not recognize the transaction. Bigfoot walks toward him slowly, reaches down near the cedar line without breaking stride, and picks up the broken elk antler that has been lying at the bone field's edge since the mountain lion fight, carries it loose in one hand, continues forward until the man has nowhere left to go and the skull pile is directly at his back. And then Bigfoot simply stops and looks at him for a long moment in the thin beam of the flashlight. What follows next is recorded in full by camera 6, and I will tell you plainly that I have not watched it more than once. I have not been able to. Bigfoot skins the man alive as he screams in agony. It was slow and methodical and carried out with the same focused deliberateness I watched Bigfoot apply to repositioning skulls and walking perimeter lines and stacking antlers in order of size. The Bone Fields Creek keeps running through all of it. The audio does not spare anything. When it is finished, Bigfoot places what remains at the center of the shrine, beside the elk skull pile, arranged with the same care applied to everything else in this ravine. Then Bigfoot walks to the drainage exit, pauses at the gap in the cedars, and looks back at the camera for 11 seconds. The same duration as the camera 5 look, the same stillness, the same full and complete attention directed straight down the lens. Then Bigfoot walks out of frame and camera 6 records nothing but the creek and the bone field and the dark for the remaining 4 hours until dawn. I have filed the footage with the appropriate authorities. I have answered their questions. I have not returned to the basin. I do not intend to. What I know now, after 23 days of footage across 9 cameras and more hours of review than I can accurately count, is this. Bigfoot was not hiding in those woods. Bigfoot was not a shy, elusive primate avoiding human contact out of fear. Bigfoot was managing a territory with rules I did not understand until it was too late for someone else.